Welcome to Observations. I'm Brian McMillan, the executive editor of the Palm Coast Observer, and I'm here with Peter Bugnet. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Peter is the bishop of the Bunnell Ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and this is another in kind of a series of interviews that I've been doing over the past year or so with leaders of different churches. I've done about 6 or 8, and this one today happens to be the church that I attend. So I've known Peter for at least 10 years now.
Yeah.
But I thought that it would be good to interview you because you're a new bishop. You were set apart and called in June this year.
Correct.
So my first question is, what have you learned as a bishop for the past few months? And by the way, a bishop in this church is similar to a pastor in most churches,
Right.
leader of one congregation.
Right, one congregation, basically Flagler County. One thing I've learned, oh man, it's been a lot of things. I mean, I've grown up in the church since I was baptized at 8 years old, but this is definitely a new perspective. You know, a lot of things behind the scenes that a regular quote unquote member wouldn't see or not even need to worry about. But it's been a real blessing to be able to help in a much greater way. Mm-hmm. So seeing the inner workings has been a new thing.
Very good. So again, I've known you for a long time, and I think that I've always seen you with a smile on your face. So I was wondering, what is your secret to being positive?
Wow. To me, life is too short to be crabby. I mean, there's so much, joy around us. I mean, I'm a scientist, and I love nature and the beauty of how things are put together. And I've always seen it as God's handiwork. But, it's just, life is too short to get mad at somebody that was driving or something that goes wrong. To me, it's just a waste of energy to be upset.
What are some principles of leadership that you try to follow?
Wow. Well, I try to follow the ultimate example of Jesus and leading not from walking in front, hey, look at me, rather almost from the back, but at least in the midst and say, hey, come with me. And that's kind of what I've always thought. I didn't want to be a Napoleon charging out front. I want to be supporting and nurturing and kind of in the journey with everybody. Because, everybody's the same.
Very true. What principles guide your response when people come to you for help specifically, either like counseling or if maybe someone has a financial need, through the church? What are your principles that you try to follow in that situation?
Well, I've always felt and been taught that ideally everybody could be self-reliant, and so yes, of course, we're going to extend our hand to help people in need, but at the same time, it's not just a hand out. Is it too cliche to say a hand up? We want to help teach them to be sufficient and be able to do it on their own. We'll help them this week. Give a man a fish, whatever. But really, we want to try and teach them how to help themselves.
Mm-hmm. Your main responsibility as the bishop of the ward is with the youth.
Yes.
So what have you learned from the teenagers you serve?
Well, I think I'm lucky in maybe one respect that I taught high school for 13 years. In a previous life, and so I really enjoy the youth, 12 to 18 kind of a time age group. I love the perspective they have on things. I mean, being a little more than 50 already, it's hard to sometimes remember how I saw things, back at that age, and so it's lovely to get that kind of fresh take on things. They're mature enough to understand most of how the world works, but I think that's one big thing that I've enjoyed. Just the I hesitate to say devil may care attitude, but that YOLO kind of thought a little bit is refreshing. we get stuck in our ways as older people sometimes, and it's lovely to have that perspective. But of course, as a leader, being able to nurture them and guide them is also very fulfilling.
You don't find yourself kind of rolling your eyes occasionally at some of the
I
teenagers?
try not to. I try not to. As a parent, my son's 26 now. We have some perspective that, oh my goodness, if you do that, you're gonna not be happy. But at the same time, I've never been one to force somebody to do something. I want them to. I'm not going to let them play in traffic, but I'm going to let them make the mistakes that won't hurt them too badly, because that's how we learn. We learn by making mistakes. That's part of life.
So it's talking about the church as a whole. Some people call the church Mormons.
Right.
So in recent years, there's been a big emphasis to go to the official name of the church. Can you explain what that's all about?
Yeah, so Mormon for the longest time was a nickname because one of the prophet historians in the past was named Mormon, and he compiled 1,000 years of records, similar to the Bible, 1,000 years of records into a book. His name was Mormon. He called it the Book of Mormon. And so because that was one maybe distinguishing feature of the church. Of course, we believe in the Bible and we use the Bible daily, but we also have the Book of Mormon, a separate record. And so it kind of was a nickname for the church. But because we are the Church of Jesus Christ and we follow him and we don't worship Mormon and we don't follow Mormon, it's important to distinguish what we truly are.
Yeah, very good. So as you mentioned, you're a former high school science teacher. I didn't know it was 13 years.
Yeah.
And you're still a full-time science geek. Is that fair to say? You don't take that as an insult.
Full-time? No, not at all.
Yeah.
In
Badge
fact,
of honor?
I prefer nerd.
Nerd? Okay. Sorry about that.
So good.
Full-time science nerd.
Yep.
So what does science have to do with faith?
Very good question. And it's interesting because specifically at graduate school, I ran into this a lot, that most of the graduate professors were not people of faith or seemed to shun faith. But to me, I always wanted to see, how did God do this? What did he use? And to me, it always felt like science was simply the tool that he used to do whatever, to create the universe. So I've never seen a conflict personally.
Me either. That's always been something that's been a real, they've always blended very well to me. Like you said, just explaining it, in a way that otherwise you can't. Without science, you can't really explain how things work.
How it works, right.
Because that's how it does work. But you're also a magician.
True.
You perform as Peter the Great. And I've seen some of these shows, very kid-friendly, funny.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy about entertaining people?
Well, I love to smile. I love to make people laugh and smile. And life gets so serious. And because it is scary, there's a lot of scary stuff. There's a lot of hard stuff out there. And so I like to try and lighten the mood and let people escape for a little bit. I don't like to try to just trick them. That's not my way. But I like to, just have people. Some mystery in life is good, I think, and so that's part of it.
Can you do any magic? Make some disappear or anything?
Right now, right here.
Maybe next time.
Yeah,
maybe we'll edit something in.
Yeah, sure.
Edit something out. So, considering you have all this experience teaching, performing, you don't actually in the church give a lot of sermons. It's not
Correct.
like in a lot of churches, I think the perspective is that the pastor kind of gives a weekly sermon.
Right.
But you don't do that. Instead, we have members of the church prepare sermons, and it's a lay clergy.
Right, a lay
one's
clergy.
paid.
No one gets money.
So what do you think people get out of doing the sermons, instead of you doing it every time, everybody kind of takes turns in a way?
I believe fully, and from my teaching background, if you're able to teach something, and a sermon is a way to teach something, that you learn so much more yourself. So, for example, we will have a topic that we think everybody needs to think about. And so we, I have two counselors, the three of us work together. We think about who maybe has some experience with that, but also who in the congregation could benefit by diving into that a little bit more and learning it and then sharing it. So truly it is a learning experience to be able to share your thoughts, I believe.
Okay, so last question. Church membership in general in America is on the decline. People affiliate with a specific church less than they used to by about 12 percentage points. And just going to church is less and less, I think, part of people's everyday experience. So what good, this is the Palm Coast Observer. We're all about the community. Whatever church people go to, yes. What good does it do for people to go to their church, whatever it might be, and to be involved in the church?
Great question, yeah. I think having a faith-filled life is really beneficial because it lets you kind of get outside yourself. When we're self-centered, only focused on our own thing, we tend to get bitter, we tend to get negative, I think, a lot of times. And so recognizing that there is a higher power beyond ourself, I think is really beneficial. It helps us to be more loving to those around us. It helps us to want to serve more. And by serving others, we grow. It helps us more than it helps them often. But indeed, recognize that there's a higher power, I think, is a real help. A lot of people, maybe some people, maybe not a lot, some people I think are able to live a moral life even with an atheistic approach, and that's wonderful. But I think a lot of people maybe need a little bit more, the commandments, to help keep on the straight and narrow. For me, I've been blessed to avoid so many possible problems because I had the background and the idea that I know what's right, and so I could avoid a lot of problems.
Very good. Well, you've always been a great, example to me as someone who is cheerful and service-oriented, so thank you for that, and thanks for being a great community member also. Again, this is Peter Bugnet from the Bishop of the Bunnell Ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Thanks for joining me, Brian McMillan, on Observations, and don't forget to subscribe for more interviews in the future.